question that people used to ask me so often was back in the days, yo Keegan, out of all the content you could have been making today, why did you choose and decided to go for ASMR? Such a good question. Let me go dive deep into the beginning and why I went for it. I'm pretty sure most of us grew up as a kid, always had some form of a dream. Oh, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be a footballer, I want to work for myself, whatever. I wanted to be a footballer as a kid, but the older you get, the more you start to realize, yeah, that's kind of a unrealistic thing. It just highly likely won't happen. You have to have talent for that, but besides talent, you need discipline as well. Anyways, I scrapped it off the list and I was around 11 or 12 years old. That's when I was in elementary and that's when I started to think like, hey, YouTube was pretty popping at the time. Everybody was doing their own thing. Gaming starting to become a big thing in the community. PewDiePie just started up his channel. But I noticed that like not a lot of kids initially made videos themselves, and I always said, hey, I would love to do YouTube. My initial thought was first to go ahead and vlog. So in the 7th grade, which is just a year before the 8th grade in elementary, decided to say to my friends, hey, I'm going to start up a YouTube channel. I'm going to go do vlogging. For 2 years, I basically said that. I never initiated because I was a minor. I was very, very young at the time. And I wasn't sure if I would be able to be allowed to make videos on a platform featuring myself in videos. So, and it was also something I was really not good at. I never sit in front of a camera. I was very, very scared to begin with. I'm only like 11, 12 at the time. People are going to judge me, but not just that. Creepy people will be commenting on my stuff as well, and I wasn't up for that. So this is how I really got into ASMR. So around 2014 is when I first got introduced to ASMR. How it all happened is it was a rainy day. It was, I think, just before a year before I went into the group 8. So that's just a year before you go to elementary. And I just came home from a rainy day, sat on the couch. This was back in the old house. Obviously, this was when we had like the old OG setup, which you'll see eventually when I made my first ASMRs. And I just was sitting on the couch, put my headphone on, got my iPad at the time, because I had an iPad as a kid, right? I used to love playing on the iPad. Majority of my childhood, I was outside, so I wasn't one of those kids that used to be on the iPad 24/7. I really loved spending time a lot outside with myself, with nature. I used to always go to trips on the forest on my own at the age of 12, 13. Even though I wasn't allowed from my parents, I still did that shit once in a while because it was awesome. Put my headphone on and I see this thing in my recommendation. This was back when YouTube was still very, very old. So you had like the old YouTube TV type of logo. I remember that because a few years ago, my mom, this is many, many years ago, my mom had the old YouTube app on her iPad. She has the actual thing. It's just when you open it, it doesn't work because it's like the old one. Because her iPad was like a very old model and it wasn't up to date to the iOS updates nowadays. So, this is the old YouTube, like, weird layup and setup as well. So if you wanted a certain music video, you had to search up the artist, including the title of the song. Otherwise, you would not get the song you would want. So I search up, ASMR. I'm like, man, what the fuck is this weird shit? That's the first thing I thought, like, hey, this is weird. What is this? I'm like, hey, I never heard of this. I never seen this. I remember the first ASMR person I ever watched was Danny Pink ASMR. It was a female at the time. I don't know if she still makes ASMR. I don't really watch ASMR, as weird as it sounds. I click on it, I put my headphone on. It was just tapping on like bottles, lotion, and soap, and I was like, yo, this shit is mad relaxing. I didn't know what ASMR stood for, so I thought, okay, let me type it up. Autonomous sensory meridian response, basically a tingly, relaxing sensation. I was like, oh, this shit's pretty cool. So after that, I started watching a little bit more. I started to dive into the sound assortments because back then, before I started my YouTube, this was 2014, 15, role plays weren't really that super big. ASMR in general was quite relatively small, respectfully. It wasn't as big as it is now. Like, now, ASMR is probably one of the biggest genres on the platform of YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, you name it, because ASMR is very big on Twitch as well. It's like a category we just randomly chatting. So around 2016, this was when just before I went to high school. This was just before I went to high school when I officially started. I thought, fuck it, man, let's just go ahead and make up a channel. I thought of a random ass name. I got my name, Lovely ASMR S, from a creator at the time who I don't know if still makes ASMR or is available on the platform. It was called Mary Lovely ASMR. That's where I got the inspiration from. I was gonna name my channel either Rainbow ASMR, which is kind of gay, or I was gonna call it Dolphin ASMR. And I was like, yeah, those are some sus ass names. I don't think we should do that one. And it also didn't suit like Rainbow ASMR. That's a shit name to begin with. I mean, it was quite creative, but I was like, nah. So then I was like, man, Mary Lovely ASMR, what can I make out of that? Lovely ASMRs. Like within a second, I was like, oh, let me search up if that channel does not exist. No Lovely ASMRs on the platform. And I was like, yes, I am taking that name. That's going to be my name. And I took it and I made my first video. And the whole reason why I got into ASMR is because off camera, so around 2014, 15, my first 2 years when I started watching the ASMR scene, I was actually practicing behind the scenes on how to approach a person via camera, how to make ASMR behind the scenes, and I couldn't take it serious. I'm just gonna be very honest. I was fucking around very often behind the scenes, throw my iPad and shit through the bedroom, and I tried to be serious whilst practicing ASMR before I'd start my official channel, but I just couldn't do it, man. It was so funny just looking at myself in my iPad reflection. I was like, man, this shit is hilarious. But eventually, I started to take it a little bit more serious, and I started to pretend like I'm actually talking to you as a creator. And like now, for example, sitting in front of a camera has become the most normal thing to me in my life. I had to obviously train myself, you know. A lot of people can't just sit in front of a camera and be themselves naturally, you know. A lot of people don't feel comfortable in front of a camera. A lot of people don't like being on photos. For me, example, I love being on camera. It's just I don't like being in pictures. That's the one thing I've always kind of had a, not a hate thing, but just like not a big fan of, respectfully, is getting in people's photography. I just don't like pictures, man. I don't like fake smiling. It's just a shit I just never liked, because a smile tells 1,000 words, if that makes any sense. And you know, me in pictures, I'm like, yo, what's up, man? Like, if I smile in my videos, just know that it's genuine. It's not fake. It's nothing. So anyways, man, I made that channel and I got into ASMR because I thought it was interesting. I thought, hey, no kid at the time when I made my channel was making ASMR except for Jojo ASMR. Him and I were one of the first, we were the first to introduce ASMR as kids. To be fair, he was a teenager. He was 16 at the time. I was only 14. So realistically, with all respect, no diss obviously, I was the first one to really introduce ASMR as a kid. You know, he was still a kid obviously, but by terms, he was a teenager. He was 16, 17. I'd only turned recently 14 when I made my first ASMR video. And it was awesome, man. I really enjoyed making it behind the scenes. Every day I used to come back from school and I used to make a bunch of videos every single time, and then see and look back like, okay, is this video good enough to post? Because back in the days, I used to just record and I used to just go with the flow. Like, okay, dog barks in the video. Yeah, I can't do fuck all about it because it's just a little hobby, you know. I ain't taking it very, very serious. But I always had a passion for ASMR. It was not something I actually ever meant to do. I wanted to do gaming and stuff, but then eventually with my channel growing, I think around 2017, 2018, I decided to make a second channel, which was called Keegan Vlogs at the time. Now converted into Keegan Mukbangs. I used to vlog on that channel. I used to go live, play Fortnite back when I really enjoyed Fortnite, and also when Fortnite was very enjoyable to play at. And on this channel as well, we do live streams twice a week. You know, I vlog, I do some other stuff in between, but that's really why I chose ASMR out of all categories, because it was something that I had a lot of interest in. It was something that I also got inspired to do. Like, I used to watch Raffy Taffy ASMR a lot in 2016, 2018. I've stopped watching ASMR myself because I don't need ASMR to fall asleep anymore. But when I started my channel up for the first time, I had a lot of problems with sleeping at night. I couldn't sleep. I just could never sleep for some reason, so I had to often put up an ASMR video and then fall asleep. But now, since I've gotten older, I've become more relaxed, mature. I don't know, really, you can say that I'm mature. I have my moments as well that I'm immature. Like, I'll be very honest, I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, I'm mature. Absolutely not. I may be 21, 20 years, but I got a fucking mentality of a 10-year-old, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's how I got into ASMR. That's why I chose ASMR. It fascinated me. I thought it would be cool to do, and because it also required no effort, if that makes any sense. Like, it wasn't that I didn't want to do gaming as a kid. It was just I didn't have the money to finance all that expensive equipment. I was fucking broke, bro. I was your average 14-year-old kid. Didn't have a job because, hey, I wasn't entitled and allowed to work at that age in a supermarket. You had to be 15, 16 at the time to work at most places. I was only 14. And I had never thought or considered of doing a job as a, you know, people that do, it's not really a big thing anymore, is it though? Like, and in America, like newspaper boy, that did only that didn't really pay good. I was just very fortunate enough that YouTube eventually went from a hobby to a full-time job. I got very fortunate enough, but yet again, I also look at it like, hey, I basically put my entire childhood growing up into this whole YouTube thing, and I'm glad I did, man. I really don't regret doing any of it because I had so many good memories of doing it as a kid, a lot of good memories right now. So I thought I'd make this video and explain to you the full detail from beginning to the end why I chose it and why I still do it. Thank you.